Hello, everybody. This is Jason from jazzcom.ie, and today I'd like to give you a bit of an insight into accessibility. I've written a blog on this, and if you go to jazzcom.ie, the blog is entitled European Accessibility Act for Website Owners. So, there's a change coming on the 28th of June 2005 for companies based in the EU, and it's the full implementation of the European Accessibility Act. And although many people might not know exactly what they mean, many people or many website owners will be aware that digital tools such as apps and websites and computers must be accessible. What this act is bringing in is a standard to which people now have obligations if they're operating e-commerce websites, banking, transport, online services, or whatever, that they need to implement fully accessible functionality across their devices. And that could be ATMs, smartphones, ebooks, e-commerce, and particularly travel websites. So anything got to do with transport. What does it mean for you? Okay, what it means is that um, you may have to make some changes to how your website is structured and how the content is labeled. So in reality, what that means is you may have to make some changes so that the text is more visible, that the images all have tags to tell somebody who is visually impaired what that image is, that the content is structured in the right way so that somebody who's using a screen reader can fully access the content and tab across the screen, and the screen reader will tell them what's on the screen. So why it matters is that depending on what sector you're in, you may have a legal obligation. So if you're a company that's larger than 10 employees and a revenue over 2 million, you have a legal obligation. And if you're in the public sector, you have a legal obligation to reach this new standard. So what does it mean in reality? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of my own test website. So this is a website, it's not my live site, this is my test website. And if I run the accessibility scanner tool across it, it will scan the entire website and it will tell me if there are any accessibility errors. And there are. There are quite a few. So I have 4 serious errors. I have 28 contrast errors. What contrast errors are I'm using a white text across an orange background. And although that's very fitting for my brand, because my brand toolkit uses that, that may cause serious problems for somebody who's visually impaired because the contrast is not high enough between those two colors. So things like that. So this scanner will run down through the entire site, and at the moment, my test website is not compliant. So I made these changes on my live site, and as you can see, I've changed the color contrast across large areas of the site, the menus, the color contrast here. Some of these items have been changed, and even the footer as well. I had to change the contrast right down the bottom here. So hopefully now if I run my scanner across this version of the site, let's refresh that. Okay, I get 0. So what it's telling me now is there are 0 errors, 0 contrast errors, 0 alerts. What alerts have got to do with is things that you should change or look at to make them better. So for instance, the structure of the site. When people are tabbing down the site, is the site structured correctly? So for instance, have I got a heading? That's a H1. Below that, have I a subheading? And below that, have I a heading that's a H3? So some of these are technical things, but they do make a difference to somebody who's using a screen reader, because if the content is not structured in a certain way, when somebody's using a screen reader is tabbing through the site, the content will be jumping all over the place. The screen reader will be jumping right around the screen unless you have it structured correctly with this. So there are quite a few things to look for. And just to show you the difference between the change in the live site, that's what it looks like, and the site before that, let's quickly flick that back. This color scheme is completely different. So we're going from that to that. So although the changes might not appear to be significant, they are for somebody who's visually impaired. And one last thing I was able to switch on as well is a contrast tool. Again, very useful for somebody who has poor eyesight. So it can assist them with contrast. And I can also, there's also a feature to allow them to increase text. So these are all changes that are coming down the line. And if you need help with something like this, visit jazzcom.ie.